Hello everybody, and thank you for coming to our long-term school plan meeting today. My name's Eric Gordon. I'm the Superintendent and CEO of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Today I want to share a little bit about why we're here. There's a lot that's been happening in Cleveland, and as far back as 2002 we began renovating and modernizing our school buildings, and over that time we've renovated or replaced more than 40 buildings in the city. But there's been a lot of changes over that period of time, including changes at the state facility construction funding, how much funding we get from the state of Ohio, the change in construction costs themselves. Our city is thriving and booming, and that means things cost more, labor costs more. We also know enrollment has changed, both the amount of kids we serve and where they live in our city, and the population pattern has changed over the last several years as well. Our last facility plan was updated in 2014 with data that actually came prior to that in 2012 and 13, so we're almost 10 years away from that data now. We also want to be responsive both to our Board of Education, who asked us to revisit the facility plan, and also to our Independent Bond Accountability Commission, who is the independent oversight of how we use our bond dollars. And in their report last spring, they asked us to go back and revisit our facilities plan as well. And a lot has changed contextually in our school district, including investments to improve student outcomes like Say Yes to Education, which we announced this January, our pre-K through 8 school redesign work that we've been implementing in the last couple of years, and our massive high school design work we've done over the last several years as some examples of that. The long-term plan that we're working on is intended to meet our primary goal of the Cleveland Plan, which is to ensure that every student has access to a high-quality school in their neighborhood that we can financially sustain over time. So we're trying to continue to set the district on a path where we're not in the days where we're having massive layoffs and budget reductions by being prudent and fiscally responsible in the front end, and that includes both our academic and our facility programming. And then finally, this is trying to look beyond just a tweak of the facilities themselves, but actually merge, align, and integrate our academic programming, where programs are, which programs we run, if they're viable, with also our facilities, which buildings need to be renovated or replaced, are there buildings that we no longer need, should we move programs in other places in the city, questions like that. We arranged all of our data on 4 key metrics. They're listed here, and I'll talk a little bit about each. The first is academic quality. Quality can be measured in a lot of ways, but Ohio now has letter grades on our school report cards, and so we felt it was really important to use the state measure, the letter grades. But we also know the letter grades are brand new, and so we also have looked at the trend of student performance over the last 3 years. And so when you're going in to look at a school or in a neighborhood, you'll not only see a letter grade, you'll see pluses and minuses like you would on your own report card. So is a C a C plus or is it a C minus? And you'll see a trend line that C plus is getting better over time, or getting worse over time, or staying flat over time. But the first is, how does the school perform? And we're really interested in all schools that we get to A, B, C, just like you would expect for your children that we should be having passing grades and that D is in danger of failing, F is a failure. The second is enrollment and choice. Here we're looking at both historical and future trend patterns for enrollment. We know that Cleveland and Cuyahoga County is actually seeing a decrease in birth rates, and that means that if fewer children are being born in 5 years, fewer children will enter kindergarten, and that will ripple through our system. And so we have to not only look at the historical trends, but also the future trends and the predictions. We also look at attendance patterns across the district, and considering the fact that some of our children attend charter schools or private schools, including parochial and private schools. And so that data is factored in here, and that's a big difference from our past where we typically only looked at the district. The third is financial sustainability of our schools. This is district only because charter networks and parochial networks have their own methodology for determining whether they can afford a school or not. But for us, we've looked at what does it need to have as far as student enrollment so that it's a viable program, so that we can offer art and music and extracurriculars and those kinds of things that every student deserves. And that means we have to have some thresholds of how many students need to attend a school to make it a really viable school. And then finally, we look at the building use and condition. So this is 2 things. What portion of the building is being used? So if we have a very large building in a part of our community that has saw population decline, the building may only have part of the building being used. And the second is, what is the condition of that building? Is the building in need of renovations or repairs? Is it a brand new or recently renovated facility? And this includes not only the typical student spaces, but also spaces for special populations like English learners, like students with disabilities, and also our pre-K services, which we've worked aggressively to expand across the district. So if we look at each of these, I'll give you some high-level takeaways, and then one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to look at your region of the city, and I'll show you how to do that, and even the schools in your neighborhoods, which are all available on our website, and I'll share that with you a little bit later. But at the city level, the first thing we look at, again, is academic quality, and based on last year's report cards, again, this is the first year we've had a report card, 26% of our K-8 students, or about 10,000 of our K-8 students out of 38,000 citywide, this includes district and charter, parochials do not have report cards, but about 26% or 10,000 attend an A, B, or C rated school, a school we would say is passing the muster and on the right track. At the high school level, it's only about 19% or 2,800 students out of the 1,400 attending an A, B, or C school. And again, when you get into your neighborhood data, you'll be able to look at, is that an improvement, is that a decline, school by school, and across your neighborhood. Quality access is higher on the west side for K-8 students, more A, B, and C rated schools on the west side, and on the east side for high schools, where we also have our John Hay campus and Cleveland School of the Arts. For enrollment and choice, we see that by 2022 and 2023, our K-8 enrollment is expected to decline just under 4%. And again, this is fewer kids are being born in Cleveland, which means fewer kids are going to be attending school 5 years from now. While we do expect to see a slight increase at high schools, Northeast and near West are the regions with the largest declines. So we will be expecting to see fewer kids attending schools in those regions. We will be paying attention to new things like our Say Yes to Education program, which might have positive impact on high school enrollment in particular. 45% of our K-8 students and 43% of our high school students reside in Cleveland but attend a charter or a private school. So for a little less than half of our students actually attend a school other than a district school, and that is information we also need to take into account. On program viability, again, remember this is only the district's assessment, so we did not assess charter or non-public schools because they have their own definitions for how their operating models work. But for district K-8 schools, we expect that we need a minimum enrollment of 360 students, which is essentially 20 students per classroom and 2 classrooms per grade in order to be a viable program. And we would hope for a robust 450 students, which gives us some additional opportunities and resources. Currently, about half of our students are below, or half of our schools are below that minimum target of 360 students, and about 3/4 are below when we look at the more robust 450 student target. At the high schools, we would hope for a minimum of 400 students or 100 students per grade. We would actually prefer 500 students or 125 students per grade to be a viable program. And we actually hope for a few extra at the 9th grade because we know some students peel off at the 10th grade and make other selections. About 80% of this high school programs are under that 400 student target, and nearly all of them are underneath that 500 student target at this point. And then finally, we look at the building use and conditions. And so we'll start with use. Right now, if you capture all of the seats that could be available in the properties that we have in the city, again, including district and charter schools, in the district, there are 8,000 unused K-8 seats and 9,000 excess seats at the high school. So lots of space and capacity that could be used for more student enrollment. When you add charter capacity, there's about 3,000 additional empty K-8 seats, making our K-8 market here 12,000 empty seats compared to the actual students available to serve them. 65% of the district's K-8 enrollment and about 57% of the high school enrollment are in new buildings that have been built or renovated since 2002 when we really started the renovation program here in Cleveland. So what do we do with all of that information? Well, that's why it's important that all of you are here. So what I've just described to you is the fact base, the citywide analysis. And what we've been doing in the month of March and here in the month of April is trying to share all of the facts as we know them, so that as a community we're having one conversation about the same set of facts in the same slice in time. And so we're spending a lot of time making sure that we explain what these are and provide access for you to find them. And again, I'll show you that access in a few moments. But equally important is stakeholder input. And the input's important in a few ways. First, does it make sense? Do you understand? Are you able to get your questions answered? Second, what are your ideas? What might the district consider? How might you hope we respond? The district is ultimately responsible for the decisions, but your input is as valuable as what the facts say, so that as we reconcile the facts, that we come out with solutions that are going to be best supported by our community in the long run. There's a lot of things we're trying to consider in this. So options include, do we redesign some programs because we think in doing so that will actually attract kids and families back into that program? Do we use some targeted enrollment strategies that we try to attract more students back into the empty seats in the district? And if we do that, how do we reconcile the creation of other empty seats in the non-publics and in the charters? Do we look at consolidations or closures? Are there some programs that we merge together and make two programs into one, as an example? Are there new buildings that must be constructed? This is a both and. So there may be the need for some school closures, but there also actually may be the need to replace some buildings where communities actually are projecting enrollment and viable programming. And likewise, is there renovation that needs to occur? Are there other ideas? And all of this will come not only out of the analysis, but out of the feedback and input we get from stakeholders. So what's next? So in March and April, we've been working hard to make sure that we provide a very clear set of facts at the deepest level that you could want them. So I've shared with you the city level, and I'm encouraging you then to take time to look at your region, your neighborhood, and your school level. And there's actually not only the website with all of this information, but there's also regional meetings where you can interact and have a facilitated experience with people who will sit at the table and answer your questions and gather your feedback. We're happy to attend other community meetings if you're having a block club meeting or meeting in your church or other places. We're happy to come and make a presentation of how you can learn more about this. With that, we will then in May start looking at options, and we're really going to focus first on our K-8 footprint in May and come back to the community with additional opportunities to share. Here's what we're making sense of, both those facts that you gave us and the input that you gave us, to recommend to the board in June a path forward, particularly for our K-8 schools. Our high schools will revisit this same process after the summer break in the fall, so that we have a duplicate or a partner with our K-8 and our high schools that will ultimately lead to our long-term planning process. The planning process has also been designed so that we can refresh the fact base annually and make minor adjustments along the way, and that every about 4 or 5 years that we would do a complete refresh to make sure we're always looking down the road for the facilities and the schools that we need in our community long term. For more information, I would encourage you to visit our website, which is qualityschools4clekids.org. It's here at the bottom, qualityschools4clekids.org. And you'll see that you have a lot of opportunities here. First, to look at the fact base and academic quality, enrollment, building use, program viability. You also, though, can look at a citywide summary. You can go to an interactive school map where you can actually drag the map around the city, click on and hover on a particular school, drill in, drill out. You can sort it and say, I only want to look at district schools, or I want to look at charter schools. You can ask us to attend one of your events or provide feedback in our contacts, information, and events category, and there's a user guide to help you with this as well. That's where I would start. The user guide is actually a document that walks you through how to go to your neighborhood. It also includes a list of questions that can help you wonder about the information and tee up and generate some ideas that you might give back to us. So I would encourage you to download the user guide as a start in the website. And then explore your region. So you'll see on the page your opportunity to look at the citywide map, but also to look at the various regions that are all listed as you scroll down the page. So here, Northeast, East, and Southeast, and then the other regions below that. When you click on there, it will drill directly into your region and show exactly the same metrics for that particular region. K-8s are done in the neighborhood regions. High schools are done west of the river and east of the river. You can also locate your region-specific page. So here we've gone into a region where now we're looking at the K-8 and high school takeaways and school quality just for that region. And so there are tables laid out to take you directly to the same information that I shared citywide that you'll be able to look at your region. And you can download the full analysis and fact base if you really want to get into every bit of information we've collected. All of that is also on the website for you. Again, I mentioned there's an interactive map where you can actually change the criteria. Here we're looking at enrollment, and then you can hover over top of the buildings to see what kind of building it is, the letter grade of it, that sort of thing. So when you hover, a pop-up will occur that says what building you have, and it'll show all of the data on those 4 indicators for that building. And we want you to submit both your questions, your comments, and your feedback, and we have an online form available for that where you would go to share your input at the top, and it will automatically send it to us at the district, where we will then be able to catalog both to update our frequently asked questions for the questions that you've had that we haven't yet answered, but also to generate those ideas and input from the community so that we're able to use that feedback against the fact base to come to a recommendation for our board. So thank you for watching today and participating today. I appreciate your time, and please make sure that you visit qualityschoolsforclekids.org to get your questions answered and to give us feedback. Thank you. The slides that I've just shared with you are the same ones that I've been sharing at our regional meetings. During these meetings, we've been hosting facilitated table discussions in which we review detailed regional data. This same data is available on our website, qualityschoolsforclekids.org. I strongly encourage you to take the time to visit. Download the user guide, which includes a self-guided walkthrough of the site, as well as some reflection questions for you to consider as you review the citywide analysis. If you're interested in a particular part of the city, review the Explore Your Region section toward the bottom of the homepage. Once you've located your respective region, take the time to browse your region-specific page, as there are additional data summaries similar to what I reviewed at a citywide level earlier that are specific to your region and neighborhood. If you're interested in additional detail, be sure to download the citywide analysis as well as regional analysis documents using the Learn More resource page. For a more immersive experience, use the interactive map tool to find school-specific information. Here, you can filter the map by type of school, K-8 versus high school, academic quality ratings, enrollment thresholds, building conditions, and others. Although we've attempted to make the data and information included on the website as easy to understand as possible, you may still have questions. In that case, you can access the online form found under the Share Your Input section to submit your questions or share your comments and feedback. Thank you for taking the time to learn more. I look forward to reviewing your questions and feedback in the days and weeks to come, as together we create a long-term school plan for our city. Thank you for watching.